Yo, what's up, Bambinos? Welcome back to the Super Bucket Super Show. Today I'm going to be ranking all the Yakuza what the fuck? I'm going to be ranking all the Yakuza games, just because why not, and also, I just felt like it after, roasting that one guy for his tier list. I would like to start off by stating that most of these games are indisputably S tier, so I have decided to rank them all as SS, SA. That's probably not a good acronym. SB, SC, and so forth. I'll also be having some plus and minus versions of these, just to lessen confusion, because some games in this same tier are not going to be on the same level of quality, but I just can't bring myself morally to put them a tier above or below, but they also aren't on par with that game, if you know what I mean. So first off, let's start off with S plus being 0, the intro of style switching. There's also the celebration of 20th anniversary Yakuza, and it's a good starting point for Kiryu's journey, but seeing some of these characters like Ryuji and Shinji was just magical, considering that they have placements later in the series as semi-important and then important characters. It was also a good starting point for Kiryu's journey, especially going into Kiwami, because if you start Kiwami, the characters and everything that happens to these characters won't have nearly as much weight as if you played 0 first. However, that's also an issue, is that kind of a bad starting point because it's one of the series' peak games, and it's also a celebration of how far that this series has become, making some cameos not make sense at all. It makes it kind of jarring though to go from that to Kiwami, then to Kiwami 2, and then from those games that are high quality, and also the graphics of Kiwami 2, to go to 3, 4, and then 5. But yeah, I do have this thing called the zero effect, and the zero effect is that when new players play these games, and then they go to the rest of the series, they immediately associate the quality standard of 0 with all the games leading up to 7, thinking that all those games are the actual order of the games. Now, of course, anybody with brain cells would immediately go from Kiwami 2 to 3 and be like, oh shit, this is a big downgrade. But yeah, that's the issue, is that then they don't go and play the rest of the series, they just play this one game and put it down. But it's fine, at least, people enjoy this game, but it's also the most talked about game in the series, which is why most Yakuza fans find it a little boring to talk about, just because nobody really talks about the rest of the series except for hardcore players. But the combat was amazing though. It had amazing combat, rich flair to it, like you're literally smacking money out of people like it's GTA San Andreas. Like there's a tons of heat actions, different styles with their own moves, like Beast, I can like literally sidestep, grab somebody and turn them into a human windmill, or like rush through them literally by just like dashing around like a goddamn crackhead at a Kmart trying to escape the popo for the 5th time today. And then like also being able to weave during combos and be able to use that to stack up heat was amazing. Like doing perfect dodges to stack up heat was a very genius implementation, because Yakuza's combat is about as deep as you want it to be. Like you can square, triangle through it, except for, Yakuza 3, which is literally Kamaki Parry, the video game. You can square, triangle throughout the whole games, or you can use the new moves the game gives you, which rewards you with extra damage. There's some cool animation. But yeah, being able to style switch like that, especially during combos, was amazing. However, that is the qualm between this and Kiwami, and I'll get to that soon, is that in this game, in order to do that, you would need to have the quick change clothes, which means that you basically have a risk reward factor where it's like, hey, you don't want to get touched? So, in that case, here you go. You can style switch, but if you get touched, if you get tapped, yeah, not really. I'm just playing with you. I'm over exaggerating, but but still, it's amazing. It has lots of diverse minigames, Pocket Circuit being one of them. Of course, bowling, disco, karaoke, all that good stuff. A lot of players tend to think that Dame Dame came from 0, but bro, I swear to God, nobody has played 5, I guess, because that game introduced Dame Dame to the whole series. But yeah, it was an amazing game all around. It pretty much hit all the high points that a Yakuza game needs to hit, except for the pacing, but even then, that's just, an issue for beginners, not really for hardcore players. We're kind of used to that. It also popularized, how the hell do you say that? Yakuza in the West, and without it, it just, it wouldn't open up the gateway for the rest of these games to come in and steal thousands of people's hearts and show us what a good series looks like. I can't really say that any of these games are inherently bad games. They are all good games, which is why this is an S tier list with subcategories. Now on to the other S plus game, Lost Judgment. So it had dual protagonists because of the Kaito files, and he had his own combat system and everything, and his own story, which is awesome, one of the best DLCs we've ever gotten. But Lost Judgment also had, it brought back the investigation mechanics, which is amazing. That's a plus in my opinion, being able to go around a crime scene and see what's up. Whenever your little sibling gets into your food and starts picking away at it, eating it one by one, and then you realize, oh shit, somebody's eating my Oreos. So you go and you confront them about it, and then they're like, no, I didn't. And so then you get all the evidence, the crumbs, the open container. They didn't even seal back the Oreos the right way. Sure, nobody's perfect at it, but you didn't have to leave one side entirely open and the other side taped. True story. Speaking of story, the story in this game was a little weaker, but it was more character driven. And because of that, I liked it a lot more. Maybe I'm just biased, I don't know. But I thought that the characters were a core part about Judgment that needed some work. They're all still very good though, don't get me wrong. And for this to be more character driven was a good decision, but it did lead to a little bit of a weaker narrative. Just a little bit though, not majorly. Still one of the best stories in the series. Lots of mini games like drone races, boxing, robo manager, scooter racing, and even friend events are back. However, some of these friend events are kind of subpar, but a lot of them are good. Like going to the stores and whatnot and buying stuff and getting points for it. Like, I mean, that's great, but also, I mean, that's not really a friend event. That's just buying shit with an average corporate app. But yeah, these are very unique game modes. Robo Manager was awesome. It brought me back to my Vex days in 7th grade, where I would build a robot, put it down, and, you know, make it do obscene things to my friends. Scooter racing, I wish I could have done that IRL, but you know what, guess not, because I'm too busy between college and work and stuff, and things are thinking. Although I do inline skates, so I have no excuse. Drone races were amazing. I loved being able to race other drones in the air around Kamurocho. I felt like that was a very unique mini game. Boxing was also awesome. I love the boxing mini game. I love being able to do different moves and take down different opponents, and I wish we had that come back in the later games, but I guess not, unless Infinite Wealth adds it back. Graphics is a given. Let me just look at the pavement textures. You can't tell me those aren't crispy clean. The combat is also the smoothest I've ever felt in the series, with the incorporation of the snake style, which basically implored players like me and you to use these things called counter strikes. And no, I'm not talking about the Valve game, although that is a very good game up until recently. But also, I mean, you smoothly transition between each and every single acrobatic attack. Like you hit one guy, you throw him on the pavement, instead of there being some weird animation glitch, you immediately switch over to your next attack without it ever looking like you know, had a weird animation glitch or whatnot. Kind of like how Assassin's Creed Unity had the smoothest parkour system because there was no weird animation jags where you had to load the animation then do the action. Unlike AC4, 3, Syndicate, especially the RPG games, which literally didn't have anything to do with parkour. But yeah, mortal reversals are also very cool for the snake style. I love those things, especially this video, this guy throwing this other dude in the river. Juggling and wall bouncing potential came back, and I love me some wall bouncing. I love smacking somebody against the wall and boom, 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 and they can't even get up. By the time they wake up from the hospital, they're going to be literal vegetables. But yeah, with the magic of the Dragon Engine, you can stuff people's faces into items, throw them around, and knock them into water, which is not intended, but still, it's a very cool feature. There's also unique heat actions too for each style, but that's pretty much a given. And that's pretty much all I really have to say about this one. So let's move on before I make this video way too long. Alright, on to Kiwami. This has a more organized skill tree than Zero for sure, with the tech, body, and other stuff being put into their own separate categories, instead of me having to dig through every single individual skill tree. It had cool healing cancel finishers. Basically, if an enemy was healing up, but they had like a similar aura to one of your auras, you could just start beating the shit out of them, or if you already have heat, you can beat the shit out of them even more. You can slam their faces in, you can punch them in mid-air, which was amazing, and also you can instantly style switch without style switching clothes. You can do one after an evade, after a block. There's so many different ways you can instantly switch. It's like playing Doom Eternal for like Brawler fans. This is Editing Buckets here. I was going on too much about Django being a good antagonist because he was cold-hearted, but screw that, we're going to talk about Nishiki instead. They also have one of the best antagonists, being Nishiki. Nishiki was amazing. The reason why is because his story is just kind of a tragedy. He went from a guy who's pretty much a golden retriever to being a guy who, well, basically the Japanese Joker. But seeing that transformation was pretty sad, and having to fight him was kind of like, oof. And, you know, it was pretty sad, but it was also really awesome, and it was just one of the more emotional fights in the series, and I liked it a lot for that. I would go into detail, I really don't want to spoil too much, but yeah. Majima Everywhere system, we cannot forget about this one. Having him pop up in sewer drains, traffic cones, and stripping on poles, which was very interesting. It brought the most bipolar game system I've ever seen in a game. But yeah, it kept you on your toes, and it kind of like, you know, sharpened up your skills too with all your combat experience. It also helped level up the dragon combat system, which I thought was to be honest. It did a lot of damage, but I didn't like it as much as Rush, Beast, or Brawler. Actually, I liked it more than Brawler, but I didn't really like it as much as Beast. Just being able to crash through things was amazing, and Rush was just, well, crackhead the moveset. But yeah, it was pretty much more of Zero, and that's not really a bad thing. It just had maybe one other portion of it cut out, but that's it. So that's why I still put it in S tier, just because it was just more of one of my favorite Yakuza games ever, and I didn't really see that as an issue. Except for the final boss being absolute utter bullshit. Like, imagine nukes and gunshots times 4, but Tanimura somehow has it worse. So S- Yakuza 7, it introduced one of the best turn-based systems in the entire turn-based genre. Yes, that's a hot take. Fight me. I dare say it's better than Persona's system, just because you actually had to time your attacks, and especially Junhigan's, which had like multiple taps and then triangle attacks that you had to memorize. I just felt like it was more visceral and just felt better to pull off. And it didn't really get too boring until about the 77th mark, and even then there were still more classes to see, and more moves and more essence attacks. Like, the more you upgrade your friend buns, the more attacks they will get, and you can see these awesome animations. For example, if you level up Namba's character, he will get this one thing, and it's really cool. Basically, he floats up in the air, and he just starts breathing fire like a goddamn dragon. I mean, you can't tell me that it's not cool. And also, Junhigan with his pistols, being able to zoom, pow, pow, pow. Best part of that game. Yeah, it had poundmates too, which were very awesome. I really liked extorting that one kid for money the entire time, or calling him Majima, who for some reason can run down the side of a building. People say that Ichiban is schizophrenic and that this is all happening within his head, but I guarantee Majima could actually do this in real life. It also had an amazing story to boot with tons of twists and turns and things I just won't say because I just don't care to spoil it because it's an amazing game. I'm just gonna say it has a good story. Go play it if you haven't. It also has some brand new minigames like Dragon Kart, and also the whole sheep thing, which was very interesting, weird, kind of what the fuck is this? Just to name a few. The only reason why I say that this is below Kiwami is just because I prefer the brawler combat. If this game had brawler combat, which wouldn't make sense given the context of its narrative, it would, be higher, but, it's turn-based. I enjoy turn-based combat, and I like it, just not as good as that brawler combat. So moving on to SA+, we got Yakuza 5. Yakuza 5 had combat that was basically a less focused version of Zero. I just say that in the sense that, it didn't have style switching or anything like that, but it did feel a little bit more like Zero, with a little classic flair from the original engines. Not really much to say about that, other than the fact that Kiryu is literally his fiercest in this game, but that's about it. There is still the extreme heat actions, or the extreme heat mode, sorry about that, which is better than 6 and Kiwami 2, just because it was just a little more badass. Especially with the QTEs. It was pretty good combat, very nice, very polished sometimes, and just felt good to play overall. Like, Akiyama basically just became a DMC character. Like, you can literally fly with him in the air like a goddamn bird. Saijima's section was pretty boring, but he had the most brutal heat actions and very good combat. It was basically Beast if it was an entire combat system on its own. Also, he punched through an avalanche and also fought a mountain god. Here's a hot take. I think that Saijima is the only person who could ever match Kiryu, but I think he could honestly be Kiryu if he just had enough experience. Shinada, I love how Shinada as well has this whole baseball bat thing, where if he tries to pick one up and he tries to use it, the game won't let him because of his respect for the sport. Also, different cities. Kiryu's though is very egregious because you literally have to walk around the entire section of a city in order to get through it. Why there's no alleyways boggles my mind, but alright, I guess. I can get my steps in for today. The taxi minigame was awesome. It was literally just initial D, but Yakuza-nized. Ooh, that's a new word, Yakuza-nized. It had heat actions, even had Eurobeat music as well. That's pretty much the perfect minigame. The best minigame. Fucking fight me. Japanese drumming arcade game thing that I forgot the name of was also in this game, and I like that a lot. There is a plethora of side content and side quests, which I thought was a great part about this game, and also a very mind-numbing part of it, only because 100% in this game is an absolute nightmare. Idle activities were fun. Fight me. Hunting was also kind of fun. I liked it. Kind of reminded me of Call Hunter Wild, whatever the hell that game was. I got it for free on the Epic Games Store, so I don't know. I felt like the hunting was very fun. I liked it a lot. That's pretty much it. There's nothing more to that. I just like Saijima hold gun, Saijima go boom. The XP share feature, which 4 should have had, was amazing. Being able to distribute points to different characters, even if you're on one character, was an amazing thing, and I swear to God, that was my biggest issue with 4, was just that. Like, not being able to start with Regard or a quick step thing from one other character. You had to restart from scratch. It was just kind of annoying. Not like too bad, but it was still kind of annoying. However, the long and convoluted story was pretty terrible, and Sajima's sections was boring as hell. I wouldn't say the story is as bad as 4's, I would just say it's kind of forgettable. However, the side quests are pretty mad, but it also had some good ones too, so I don't know, I guess it balances out. On to SA+, we got Judgment. Judgment basically refined and enhanced the system from 0, but it also took a back step because Tiger is literally one of the only ones you need to use. Crane is kind of an alright style until you get all the upgrades for Tiger, and then that's just the only one you really have to use, but Crane's still cool. But being able to wall jump off of walls, being able to slide into people, leapfrog on thugs' heads, and then in the middle of that being able to do a takedown, very awesome combat system. The Dragon Engine graphics were also great, amazing, that's pretty much a given, and the styles were just, like I said, pretty cool. Good twist. Speaking of twists, the story had a lot of very good twists, not gonna spoil it though, and I'm almost at the end, but don't spoil the ending for me please. New minigames such as drone races, pretty much spewing out the same thing I said about Lost Judgment, except this is Lost Judgment but less, so that's why it's an A+. It had detective mechanics, all that stuff, yada yada yada. Honestly, the only thing that held this game back was the tailing missions, but other than that, the combat was amazing. And oh wait, actually one more thing that held it back was the fact that it just had less systems when it comes to the combat. Like Lost Judgment had like 3 or 4 different systems, styles, systems, shut the fuck. On SA, oh my god, that will never be a good acronym. On SA, we have Kiwami 2. People tend to hate this game, but I like it a lot, so I don't know. Ryuji's boss theme, enough said. Amazing. Piano was emotional. Boss is emotional. I loved it. It was intense. It was great. It was a timer. It was just a good boss fight. A little too easy, but it was still good. Amazing graphics coming from Kiwami 1 to Kiwami 2, especially Assault and Boy River and all the neon lights, the updated textures. The Dragon Engine really did pull through for this game. Good story in my opinion. I loved Ryuji. The Jingwa Mafia plot twists were also amazing, and the stakes were also pretty high with the whole city about to be fucking blown up by one guy. Just because he has an ego. They also brought back the weapon inventory, which 6 did not have. They had slightly smoother combat than 6, had more content than 6, because 6 was sorely lacking in content. Someone tried to bring up Onomichi being the reason why 6 is better than Kiwami 2, but I was like, nuh-uh, just because Onomichi pretty much lacked in content and wasn't nearly as good as Okinawa. But yeah, they brought back the arena mode. 6 didn't have that, I guess because they knew the combat in that game was so average, they didn't even bother to add an arena mode. But it also had more heat actions than 6, so not only did it bring back the weapon inventory system, but it also had more heat actions than 6 did, such as being able to do the whole foot thing when somebody's down or punch them in the face, which for some reason you couldn't do in 6. On to SB, we got Yakuza 3.
What did he say?
This game has kind of grown on me after a while. I really like the slice of life parts of it, just because I feel like it's a nice break from the overall stress of a Yakuza game. Like how the whole narrative is just very dark and serious. I did like how it was a little more vibrant, a little bit more colorful, and just being able to see him finally live out a peaceful life for just a little bit was amazing. On New Game Plus, it's kind of annoying, but that's whatever. And it was just more focused in 4, because 4 had multiple protagonists they had to deal with, and that game was kind of disjointed. It was more focused than 4 just because they had one protagonist to focus on with Kiryu and his daily life and his struggles and whatnot, while 4 had 4 different protagonists, leading to the story feeling very disjointed at times and had little room to grow. But also, this game kind of, with as weird as its combat system is, even though it's one of the worst ones in the series when it comes to combat, it also taught me how to play a Yakuza game without mashing square, 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 triangle. It taught me how to watch my enemies, learn their attacks, circle around them, and boom, 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 and just keep them in a corner for like 5 fucking years. But yeah, like even though this combat system wasn't the best in the series, it definitely taught me a valuable lesson of how I should play other Yakuza games if I want to be successful in that combat. But Okinawa, like I said, nice relaxing break. You got the ocean, you got the sand, you got the locals, all the tropical stuff. It was just relaxing to be at. I can't really put my finger on it, but it was just like relaxing, like Wii Sports Resort relax. And Mine was also a very good antagonist. Now before you say anything, I feel like Mine was supposed to be kind of like a reverse version of Kiryu. Think about this. Kiryu was a man who lost so much, grew up as an orphan as well, but yet he used that not as a reason to do evil, he used it as a reason to do good, as to repay the service to other children. Mine is the opposite of that. He let what society did to him, and being an orphan, he let that make him into a bad person, use that as a reason to do bad things, to ruin other orphans' lives. And I feel like it's a very beautiful archetype fight between the two. One man, he used what everything happened to him as a reason to do good things and move forward, and one man who's stuck in the past and would use it as a way to be evil. It really just goes to show how perspective can be everything. And Mine having that one moment of clarity towards the end, because him and Kiryu weren't so different after all, was a beautiful thing. Alright, on the SC we got Yakuza 4. This game was too easy, even on the hardest difficulty like Legend. The prison section with the sniper was boring because I just sat behind some crates and beat the shit out of some dudes. Akiyama's section was cool. I did not like Tanimura's ending boss at all. Did not like it. It was Jingu times 5, and God knows how I feel about Jingu's boss. The revelations were very funny though, like the panty thief, and then the karate couple as well. Like I said earlier though, a little bit of clarity here. The combat is still fun, but it was just too damn easy. The story was also the worst in the series, in my honest to God opinion. There are some people who think it's the best, maybe because they saw that plot twist as a genius thing, but for me, I didn't. The Sajima plot twist literally shoved his entire arc down the drain for no discernible reason, just to be like, haha, plot twist. Like, towards the end, the game just throws you 700 plot twists, and at that point, you're so confused on what's happening that you can't even focus on the actual story. You're just waiting for it to be over. But yeah, the characters, in my opinion, I feel like they didn't have enough time to develop in the game. Like, I feel like Akiyama's section was kind of lived short, and Sajima's section was a little boring, but better than 5's though. And then Tanimura, I just did not give a fuck about. I did not care about Tanimura's section whatsoever. But having a multi-level Kamuro was awesome though. Like being able to go into the underground mall, into parking lots, above buildings, all that shit was so awesome. I wish they'd bring that back. It also had some decent side quests like the Kappa one. SF is Dead Souls, enough said. Alright, that's it for this video guys. I hope you enjoyed, or if you didn't, that's okay, I guess. I don't know. This is your man, Duck Bucket Thing Buckets heading out. I'm going to bed. I don't feel like being awake for much longer.